The Google Sega Dreamcast. When I say I want to give you a kiss on the cheek, I mean ass. This is the defense mode switching to attack mode, and apparently Spawn Wave says that Google is not entering the home console market. Now we all known about Google entering the home console market. We've been hearing about this for ages, and we've been not really giving a shit for ages. But apparently, they're not coming alone, according to him. Sega is apparently partnering with them. Now that makes this whole thing interesting. Because before Google going into the market alone and, oh, there might be a home console as well with streaming service, I feel like taking a nap. I don't give a shit. But, and we all figured they would just come in and fail, just like they failed in the phone market, just like they failed in the freaking social media market with Google Plus. You know, they have enough money to go in other ventures and lose and just pretty much chill. Because they have YouTube. Buying YouTube was one of the smartest things Google ever did. Because Google already made them billions of dollars and then YouTube just adds on to it. But anyway, partnering with Sega, a company that's been in the home console market before and knows how to, knows that market, smart. Especially since Sega is not willing to take the risk of entering the home console market again and failing. Which is why they never returned to it. It's the reason they left the home console market and it's the reason they never returned. They're afraid of going to the home console market, and if they don't freaking succeed, that's their ass. So they don't want to deal with that. But Google, this kind of reminds me of the PlayStation Nintendo relationship. Remember when Nintendo and PlayStation was to combine to make a CD console and all that stuff, and then the last second Nintendo was like, hey, you know what? Sony was asking for too much money, so the last second they're like, screw you, we're gonna go with these guys. I forgot what they want. They want some other company. Pretty much just said, hey, we're gonna go with these guys because they're a lot cheaper. So screw you. The Sony looks stupid, and they're like, no, we're gonna enter it ourselves. And then everyone laughed like, haha, they're gonna enter it themselves. They returned it. But man, to their credit, thanks to Nintendo messing up, and that's the key. What the key to another home console coming in and making money and doing big and all that stuff is the other company messing up. Sega had to mess up. I mean, Sega. Well, Sega did mess up. Sega had to mess up with their freaking, what was it, the Saturn? Yeah. Sega had to mess up with the Saturn by releasing it too soon with a few games, and that wasn't strong enough to really hold 3D like 64 was. They came in messing up. Nintendo was already messing up by not switching CD, sticking a cartridge and all that crap, and pissing off all the third-party companies. So both of them are messing up. And then Sony just came in and just with their what's it called, their CD-based console, and even though it wasn't as strong as the 64, man, did they fucking take over. They took over like no one's business. And that's because the other two companies in the home console market were screwing up. And so they came in not screwing up. They came in doing everything right. And bam. They took over. And they've been taking over ever since. Even though Nintendo kind of, every once in a while with Wii and Switch, they freaking take back their share and they say, hey, we still know what we're doing. Yeah, and then Xbox, the first Xbox did whatever, it was alright, but they didn't really do good until the 360, and that's because the PlayStation was screwing up. And even though Nintendo had their successful gimmick, they weren't, coming up with the strongest graphics and all that stuff. So Xbox was able to take advantage of what Nintendo and PlayStation were doing right. And that's why we have three console companies, the Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo. And PlayStation got their footing back at the end of the 7th generation with the PS3 because Xbox was screwing up with the freaking Rings of Death and all that stuff. People went back to PlayStation. By that point, PlayStation, Sony had got the shit together. And then as for the 8th generation, Sony was able to take advantage of Xbox screwing up with the Kinect, and then they took off. And Nintendo was able to take advantage of PlayStation's Vita screwing up in the handheld market, and Xbox having a non-existent handheld market, for them to take advantage and do the hybrid thing. Even though the Switch would have done well, even if the Vita did well itself, not gonna matter. So maybe that's not a good example, but still, all the other examples make sense. So the question is, Google is trying to come into the home console market, and they don't really know what they're doing. So hey, why not grab a company that a high developer that was once a home console market maker? Google puts in the money so that Sega doesn't feel doesn't feel the financial failure if it doesn't come off good. They could always use them, just like Nintendo was using Sony to help it make, the CD console. Shit, Google could do the same thing with Sega. Or Sega could do the same thing with Google. No, I think it's Google that needs Sega. Because I don't think Sega cares. Sega, they don't really care about making a home console. They're fine doing what they're doing. I think it's Google asking for Sega's help with Sega, saying, okay. So this really does feel like that PlayStation Sony. I'm retired. Does feel like the Nintendo Sony relationship all the way back in the early '90s, the mid '90s, where they were gonna come up with that. What was gonna be a freaking CD based console together. And it looks like this is what's happening now. Except this might actually go through. If Sega and Google actually follow through with their stuff, which I think they are, and if this rumor is true, which I'm pretty sure it is, man, freaking, we're gonna see a hybrid console. Not a hybrid console, but we're gonna see a console from Google / Sega. Sega's probably gonna all of Sega's first party games and all that stuff they're gonna come up with for the Google. So that means the next Sonic game, which I hope to God doesn't suck, they could actually release that on this console. And then there may be a whole bunch of other games that they weren't willing to put money in because they don't think it's gonna work. How much IP Sega has they don't use. All kinds of games that they can rebirth and remake and all this stuff, but they probably just don't want to put the money into it because they don't think it's going to be successful. If Google were to put the money into it, it's like, hey, yeah, we need games, but here's the money, just make them. Then Sega will be like, alright, and then they'll just pump up all those games. Actually be a good thing. Maybe maybe the Sonic team won't actually suck this time around. Make Sonic Adventure 3, or maybe just a Sonic Adventure remake. Remember that Sonic Adventure remake? Rumors? Maybe it's coming out for the whatever this console is. We don't know the name of the console. I'm just calling it the Google Dreamcast because I'm being a dick. It sounds funny. Rather than just saying the Sega Dreamcast 2, it's like, no, this is a Google console. Yeah, they're partnering with Sega, but it's Google. So I think it's possible it could be called the Dreamcast 2, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I think they're gonna call it something else. Maybe the name is gonna have the word Dream or Cast in it, and be a whole different word, but it's definitely not going to be called the Google Dreamcast or the Sega Dreamcast 2 or the Google Sega Dreamcast. I mean, I wish it would. Dreamcast is like one of my favorite consoles of all time. I think at one point it was my favorite console of all time. Probably because I was being a hipster and we're looking in the past too much. But some of my favorite games are on there. Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 are some of my favorite games. That's definitely my favorite Sonic games. Crazy Taxi was crazy. Power Stone was one of my favorite fighting games. Skies Arcadia was a great RPG. That whole Jets whatever radio thing and and of course Shenmue, which is one of the greatest games at the time, was one of the greatest games ever created. I still think it's one of the greatest games ever created. Just a product of its time. Is that games have gotten better since then. But I think the Shenmue, especially for its time, was one of the greatest games ever came out. One of the most innovative games ever came out. Now it's kind of hard to go back and play. I just bought the game on PS4, and it's kind of hard to go back and play. But man, it was great. Sega Dreamcast just had gem after gem, and the ones that came up with Dead or Alive, the first one, all that stuff, they just had gem after gem after gem after gem after gem after gem. I mean, Dreamcast just like how the Nintendo Switch has just like killer ass first party games, just like gem after gem after gem. That's how Dreamcast was. Just like how the Nintendo Switch is now, where every first party title they come up with is just fucking gold. That's how the Dreamcast was. Like almost every first party game was just killing it, and the few third party games they had were great too. It's just like almost every game on the Dreamcast was fantastic. It's almost mind boggling. Well, how come the Dreamcast didn't sell as much? I mean, they did mess up with the Saturn, and then they came up with the Sega CD, and like that kind of ruined people's fate because they came up with the CD, and then they only supported it for like a year, and then dropped it, and then they came up with the Saturn, and then immediately dropped it for the Dreamcast. So by the time they actually got it right with the Dreamcast, everyone already was pissed off and done. Like, we're done investing in you if you're just gonna keep abandoning your consoles every time you come up with a console. So then the consumer kind of just said F you, and then they just stuck with Sony or Nintendo. Because at least they'll stay and back up their shit. And thank God Nintendo, whatever DD, Nintendo DD, whatever crap they're trying to come up for the 64, thank God they never released that crap. Yeah. So it's a shame that when they finally got it right, Sega with the Dreamcast, that was already too late. No matter how great their games were, it was just too late. The PS2 was already on the horizon with the freaking DVD player built inside, and Nintendo is was ready to ready to drive fans away with the freaking with the freaking GameCube. Man, but Sega coming back into the home console market in any form, even if it is just right behind Google. Like, hey, where are you supporting it? Is just fine by me, because another Dreamcast-esque system. This Google Dreamcast game was right. I'm gonna call it until we get an official name for this Google Sega console. I'm calling it the Google Dreamcast, the Sega Google Dreamcast. God damn it, because it's hilarious to say. But Sega coming back in any form in the home console market is good news for me, because the last time they came out with a console, Dreamcast, it was one of my favorite consoles that ever came out. I love that fucking system. Ever get money, I'm gonna fucking rebuy that old system and buy all those old games. I love that system. And if they can do what they did with the Dreamcast or whatever this console is, and just pour a whole bunch of first-party titles into the system and help out Google with the shit, yo, that's gonna be a win-win. If they can do what they did with the little Dreamcast, man, is a day one buy for me, and I'll freaking support it to the end. But as far as the Google Sega team up, I didn't see this coming at all. Straight out of left field. This is crazy. I can't wait to see how this console comes out and what happens and what games they have. I just can't wait to see this thing unveiled now. Whereas before I didn't give a shit. Shit, this is attack mode, switching back to defense mode, and I am out. Peace to the Middle East. Little piece of the Middle East.